Hey class, hey professor. This is Nick. This is my style analysis presentation. I'm covering Michael Turner, Jenny Frison, Marc Silvestri, and Joe Benitez. Some of the main, like, ongoing topics that you'll see me discuss repetitive will be dynamic figures, page layouts, composition, and rendering. Mostly because I have gotten some of that feedback um, in my work, and I chose these artists specifically for those purposes. So starting off with Michael Turner, he was a 90s uh, Top Cow artist, Aspen Comics in the 2000s before he passed away. Um, but his figure work was super amazing, especially on Witchblade, Fathom, a lot of the Aspen titles, like um, there's a couple others that I can't recall at the moment, but his work is just fantastic. His figures are super fluid, dynamic. Um, they pop off the page, and that's some of the stuff that I'm trying to incorporate in my own art. So as you can see, dynamic covers, super cool, interesting figures to look at, cool designs, um, just really well done rendered pieces. Here's a couple pieces that he's done, Witchblade, the stuff for Civil War, for Marvel back in the day. Some more stuff for Marvel. Again, dynamic figures, dynamic shots, epic battles, and none of his figures look stiff, which is something that I've been told about my work. So here I tried to replicate part of a double page spread that Michael did for Witchblade, focusing on Witchblade and the bottom right panel. Um, my goal here was to get an idea of he what his thought process was when composing the shot, even replicating the image. My version is still a little bit stiff. There's not that much of an arch, like where she's kind of like thrusting forward with her arms backwards with my replication, but an improvement from stuff that I've done in the past. Um, Looking at his rendition of hair, like focusing on like W's, N's, S's, like those types of curves in the hair, um, to make sure that I can draw that when rendering females or males with long hair. And then with this panel down below, kind of get an idea of like an upshot, something that's a little bit different than just like straight on placement of a figure, which I've done in my prior work. So here, that same double page spread, I broke it down into layouts to get an idea of like his page composition, even including the word balloons to try to get that practice in to when I'm laying out my pages, from thumbnails to layouts before I go into complete um, finished pencils and inking to get a sense of where the word balloons might go. But here got tons of overlapping panels, different shot choices that help make the page super interesting, versus it being like just a plain grid. Everything's laid out with overlaps, slim panels, um, pulling in the camera, pulling it out, silhouettes, and then moving into like a big splash panel with a focus on the main character, and then for like the page turn, moving into like a close up. It's really cool stuff in his work. Here again, I try to replicate layouts for another page that he did, getting an idea of like, okay, a splash panel, then mixing it up with a close-up, followed up with another close-up, pulling the camera out, and then out further, and then out even further to get an idea of like a huge impact type of shot that doesn't have to be super detailed to have that impact on the page. Um, Looking at close-ups and then his like sliver panels with close-ups, showing like time passing through. Just really cool stuff there. So next up is Jenny Frison. She mostly does covers from what I can tell. I haven't seen any interior pages of her art, but her covers are some of the stuff that like really stands out when you go into like a comic shop and see what's on the wall, like a new comic day each week, and just like her composition, her layouts, her expressive figures and colors really pop, and I love her stuff, so I wanted to include her in here. So some of the stuff that she's done has been a lot of alternate covers for Something is Killing the Children, which I did my book review on, and that's one of the main reasons that got me into the series, seeing her artwork. So I tried to replicate in pencil one of her covers to get an idea of like what her process was, what makes the page look dynamic, makes it stand out. So try to get some of that idea going into my own work for eye-catching purposes. So here on this page, hers is on the left. So there's composition, different flow, um, negative space in the background here with the moon, dark to light, and then the overlapping character with the branches and leaves. So I kind of replicated that to get an idea of, okay, like what kind of flow am I getting from this image. Here she's got like expressive figures again. A couple shots of her different covers for Something is Killing the Children. Common stuff in her work, other than just like the dynamic colors that she does, is her shot choices, her expressive hands is like a big piece that draws me to her work. So on this last page for her, I really wanted to kind of like incorporate a few of the different pieces um, from the previous pictures. So like her dynamic hands, the close-ups, the figure work, again, expressive hands and facial features, and just kind of thinking of, you know, what makes her really stand out, and um, it's all of the pieces working together, the poses, the gestures, the expressions. Makes me wonder like how much photo reference she utilizes in her work, but I haven't been able to find like any details on her Instagram page or um, anything like that that would help me get more into her specific process. Next up is Marc Silvestri. He's a titan of the industry. He's been doing comics for longer than I've been alive, since I think early 80s, if not late 70s. But what I wanted to get from him is a lot of his composition, his figure work, his rendering, which now he doesn't have an inker any longer. He pencils and inks his own stuff, and just if you get a chance, check out Batman and Joker Deadly Duo, and you'll see exactly what he's doing with his rendering, and it's just no one's on par. Um, Here's some more of his composition, shot choices, rendering, and I don't think he even like fully pencils anymore. I think he does some of his layouts in pencil and then just transitions over to Copic markers and and just finishes the artwork that way with his microns. Here's some of his older stuff, like on Witchblade, um, The Darkness, some of his Marvel work, and you can tell like his rendering has just gotten more and more expressive over the years. Here, started breaking down some of his work. So with this, trying to get an idea of like what his layouts were, the spacing between each of the panels. Not a whole lot of like gutter space in some of these. They're pretty much butted up against each other, and it's like that makes the action kind of go quick within these pages, or these panels rather. So that's what I was going for there with that layout breakdown. Here, I try to replicate um, as close as possible a full rendered drawing of his Batman and Joker. Um, I started trying to do the inks, but I definitely couldn't get to his tightness with rendering, which is definitely a goal that I still aspire to. But I think it's going to take a lot of work and practice. I was able to do some of it with pencil, but once I started trying to like get into the inks, I just blacked it out. When in doubt, black it out, kind of thing. On this following page, he has a good sense of establishing shots with like a sliver type of panel, but we've got some negative space, some overlapping to get an idea of where we're at. Um, his perspective is what I was trying to replicate for the location that the two characters are at and the characters themselves in this like elevator shaft space. Placement, kind of thinking of like the rule of thirds, how like the whole page compositionally works out, and then again another establishing shot at the end. It's just really dynamic stuff that Marc does in his work. Lastly, Joe Benitez, one of my favorites from Top Cow also. Um, he currently works on Lady Mechanica, creator owned. I've had the opportunity to have him review my portfolio several times over the years, and he gives great feedback, honest feedback. So stuff that he's shared with me is don't be boring, make your figures dynamic, um, composition with the layout. So all the stuff that I mentioned at the beginning that I've been trying to incorporate in my work. So this next piece is a double page spread of the darkness. Well done double page spread where here's the center of the page. The panels are all arranged on either side with a big splash in the middle. Just really cool stuff. He makes his own gutters where he's got like overlapping panels with black in the background and then a frame to use as a gutter, which is something that you don't really see too much in mainstream comics like Marvel or DC anymore. It's usually like grid stuff. So I think this is really cool. So I try to replicate that layout, get an idea of his process here, what the movement between the panels was, um, the layout of the figures, the emphasis, what he was focusing on in each of his panels, and then having that money shot in the center that screamed, "Pick me up, read this book." So here's some more stuff that he's done on Lady Mechanica. So again, dynamic panels, overlays, panel breaking, intricate design, intricate just figure work. Like they're not stiff, they're moving. His pages got panels that are askew. Um, really cool stuff. Again, like talking head panels between these two here, how to make them super dynamic and not just boring, straight on shots, um, or chest up type of shots. Pulls in the camera, pulls it out, extreme close ups. We get establishing shots with full characters, dynamic characters for covers with intricate like designs in the background, which is very, very common to Joe's work and something that always had me pick up his work whenever I saw it at a comic shop. Again, dynamic figure, cool layout here with these intricate designs, just amazing stuff. So I try to replicate that talking heads panel, incorporating the word balloons again, to try to get a sense of where to place that when doing my layouts to make it easier for myself to letter in the future, or for a letter to kind of use that as a guide. But again, these figures aren't stiff, camera's moving around, so this isn't just like a boring grid, it's dynamic. It makes you want to continue reading um, and have a bit of an interest into the artwork, making it more visually appealing. Lastly, I took one of his double page spreads for the darkness, an image that's always stuck with me for the darkness, and try to recreate that to get an understanding of like how he made that figure look so cool. Really fluid, dynamic, intricate line work, um, really well done proportions and anatomy. So just awesome piece there. And lastly, just kind of putting all the pieces together, I drew Scarlet Spider with a big Venom face in the background, and uh, Miles Morales kind of reflecting in Venom's eyes. My hope here was to try to get like some of the flow, the composition from like Jenny Frison with like the spider web moving throughout the page as he's shooting it out, getting like an X with the tongue here that wraps around Scarlet Spider's ankle. Um, Try to get a sense of like the rendering that Joe, Michael, and Marc Silvestri do in their stuff. Just really, really cool um, design overall for the page, the cover, as like a mock cover. Something that would stand out if you were looking at this in a comic shop. Um, my figure, anatomy-wise, I really try to focus on making sure the placement of all the muscles and stuff were really well. Try to make them super dynamic, but it's kind of just there on the page. So that's something that I'm still focusing on. Um, but yeah, that's my stuff. Pencil, ink. My goal, trying to get my artwork to a higher level. So just want to say thank you guys. This class has been awesome. Really picked up a lot of good stuff, especially with this assignment in particular. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to break down, do a style analysis for other artists that I really like and aspire to be like. So yeah, thanks a lot for the class, professor and class. I hope you all have a great fall quarter, and I hope to see you guys in another class soon.